Welcome to the Children's Book Author Podcast. I'm your host, Eleanor Page. If you write for children, or it's always been your dream to, you're in the right place. As the children's book author, I'm on a quest to discover everything there is about writing, publishing, and marketing children's books, as well as how to supercharge my creativity, skyrocket my productivity, and absolutely everything else there is to know about how to be the best, so you can be too. Join me as I interview fabulous guests and become the children's book author. Welcome back to another episode of the Children's Book Author Podcast with me, your host, Eleanor Page. Once again, I had the privilege of interviewing another children's book author, and it is Adam Wallace, who is an Australian author. I love this line that I read about Adam online, and I want to share it with you today. Adam Wallace is a New York Times best-selling author who has also had one of his books be a question on Jeopardy and has also had one of his books read at the White House. Adam enjoys writing more than anything, but he likes drawing too, and he doesn't mind long walks on the beach at sunset. Gosh, what I love about that is that you just never know where your books are going to end up. And you'll find through listening to the interview today that Adam's enthusiasm for writing and all things children books is so infectious. In fact, I felt so inspired to stop overthinking everything after speaking with him and just go write. Like it says in that part that I read you just now, Adam enjoys writing more than anything. I want to put that on a sticky note and stick it somewhere because it sounds so kind of ridiculously obvious. Is it not why we all became children's book authors? Perhaps it should be why, but I think somewhere along the way we can get a bit distracted with all the things and forget that, hey, we write because we love to write. Having said all that, Adam is also incredible and started much of his career from doing school visits here in Australia. And I think no matter where you are in the world, you'll find value from listening to his expertise around doing school visits. And as you all know, I love asking about school visits in these interviews because, part of me wants to do them and another giant part of me is scared to death of doing them. And I love asking people who do them, how do you do them? How do you find the courage? And I love that Adam says, he's done some bad ones, but he just kept doing them until he's honed it and become really great at them. And I suppose that just reminds me that everything's like that, right? Writing used to be like that for me. Probably still is some days. If I'm writing something a bit challenging and new, I can overthink it, but the only way to get through it is just to do it. Anyway, Adam has a fantastic course on how to run school visits. So you can find that in the show notes, as well as links to Adam and his books. He's written a lot of books these days, and he just is everywhere. You would have probably accidentally read one of his books. And if you haven't, go out and read some now. And more importantly, enjoy today's show. I hope that it inspires you tremendously to do all things related to kids' books. Go out, do school visits, write, draw, do all the things, and have a great deal of fun doing it. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back to the Children's Book Author Podcast with, of course, another super special guest. And today I have New York Times, USA Today, and Amazon best-selling children's book author Adam Wallace. And I didn't have to pay him to be on the show because I'm a nobody and he's a somebody.
Oh,
welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you, Eleanor. And you are so not a nobody. I talk you up all the time with what you do. Don't worry about that.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Tell me a bit about how you started on this crazy journey. Was it always like this? Did you write your first book and become a New York Times bestseller overnight? Is that how it works?
Yeah. That's super easy, super easy. That's how it always works, isn't it? No, look, it was took slightly longer than that. Well, I mean, long story short, so I probably said this a few times in other places, but I almost failed Year 12 English. I hated writing in Year 12, like hated it with a passion. Had to read books that I hated, had to write in a style that I hated. I was failing. My parents had to go up to the school. They were separated, so I brought them together for a little bit, which was nice. But then, so I went, that's it. And I ended up passing, but writing stuff that I didn't enjoy. So I was like, well, if that's writing, I don't want to do it. Done. I'm never writing again in my life. I was a very mature 18-year-old at the time, and I'm much more mature now. And so I didn't. I went and did engineering, and the only writing I did for the next 10 years was on people's birthday cards, where I'd write little poems and write little things like that. So then about 10 years after uni, I got challenged by my girlfriend at the time to write a children's book because she was doing professional writing and wrote an illustrated one. And so I did it. It was pretty average, but I really enjoyed it. And so cutting ahead, that was 1999. And I reckon I've missed maybe 2 or 3 days in that time of writing. Like it just sparked something in me, and it was pretty much, where have you been all my life? Like I realized I had all this stuff in me just waiting to come out. And that first year I did The Artist's Way, which was amazing. And it just unlocked everything. And I just wrote, I don't even know, hundreds of stories that year. And whether they were good or not, I don't even know. But it was just this release, which was amazing. And still just fun though. Like still had no intention or thought of it ever being anything apart from just a bit of fun. And then a couple of years after that, I went back and did my teaching degree because I thought I wanted to work with kids. I thought I'd be a primary school teacher. And so I did that, and I was sort of telling stories to the kids and reading stories to the kids. I'm like, you know what? There's maybe a little something here. And so I decided not to do teaching for various reasons, and went into before and after care, which again, I loved it. And again, writing for the kids, telling stories to the kids, mucking around with the kids. And over this time as well, so this is sort of over 4 or 5 years, I've been sending off to publishers, and I was up to I was over 100 rejections by this time, and the kids were loving the stories and some in particular. So I went, you know what, I'm going to self-publish. So I borrowed a bit of cash off mum and dad and self-published, and I did like 2,000 copies, and they sold really quickly. And I went, oh, hang on, there's something there. And so I ended up leaving before and after care, went back to engineering to kind of fund starting up some writing, and rejection. I'm over about 250 now, I think. So I'm smashing it. And so, yeah, it went in stages. I ended up leaving engineering 2009 and just doing the writing full time, which meant my yearly wage dropped back to about 20 grand, I think, at that stage. And I'd done some partnership publishing, and then I did some flat fee publishing for Hinkler. And then, so 2014, I got my first traditional book publishing deal. So 15 years after I started, and that was with Ford Street, who took a chance, and that was really nice. But it's funny because looking back, all of those little steps, like even doing the JoJo's, which was the partnership, doing the flat fee with Hinkler, doing like everything led to the New York Times bestsellers and happening. Like none of it was wasted, even though it took longer than I would have liked looking back. None of it was wasted, and the people I met and the things that happened, it all led to where I am today.
Wow. Do you know, I've not actually heard that exact story in the way that you told it today. So
yeah, right.
Always
cool.
Learning something new about you. I can't believe that you had such persistence to stay with it despite it might not have been working from a traditional perspective. So, you know, today you self-publish and traditionally publish, and
Yep.
you see them both as wonderful things to do.
Yep.
How do you balance that? Is that kind of an easy thing to balance?
It's easier now that I'm doing the writing full time and it's a bit more settled. It's easier now because I can sort of pace myself a little bit. Like I can do a couple of self-published books a year just because I like to. I can put them online or I can print them. I have a bit of flexibility there rather than going, I have to self-publish because it's all I've got. And if I don't self-publish, no one else is going to publish me, and I want to make an income. So I have to go and self-publish and do it at schools and do it at markets and push. Whereas now I can kind of do it for fun. And also it's a really nice way when I go to schools and markets, when I'm selling to kids, is that I can do deals, because the self-publishing. So if I publish through a traditional publisher, I might get a 30 or 40 or 50% discount. So $15 book I get for $7.50. I sell it for $15, I get $7.50 profit. I was good at maths, see, engineer. And so that's good. But if I self-publish and there's a couple that I write and illustrate myself, I'm just paying the printing cost, which might be a couple of dollars a book. So if I've got a $15 book and it's costing me a couple of dollars, I can then say $15 a book or 3 for $30, which means I'm still getting a really good margin. Kids are getting a free book. The parents aren't paying as much. So it just gives that flexibility in selling to the kids at the schools and doing certain books that maybe publishers haven't picked up. Or I've got a few that I sent out to lots of places and everyone said no, so I thought I'll do it myself. So it's nice for that as well. And for the deals for the kids. As you know, I like doing deals for people.
You do. You're amazing at that. That's really one of your strengths. Like, you're amazing at seeing partnerships and collaborations. So talk a bit to that. Forget everybody else. How can I become better at that, Adam? And then other people will be me and will relate to what you say.
Yep. Okay. This is to you,
yes.
And you alone, and everyone else listening. One of the things that changed, there's been a few things that have changed everything, but at this point, which was again back in about 2014 or so, because I'd self-published and because I'd done everything myself, I think I felt they had to continue, but also I felt like a bit of an outsider in the publishing world, I think, and a bit of not a fraud, but you go to these things and there's people who've been published by Penguin and Scholastic and all these places, and I'm like, well, they've all said no to me. I'm just doing my own little thing. So I didn't go to these things. I just sort of did my own thing and sort of pushed along. And it was when I started working with Ford Street and CreativeNet, that's Ford Street's school booking agency, that I started going along to some of their things. I went to Rockhampton for a week and did a school tour with people like Lee Hobbs and Phil Kettle and all these amazing, George Ivanov, Peter Canavas, all these incredible people. And then suddenly, as I hung around them and meeting like Andy Griffiths and having him, stand after a Yabba Awards in a car park for an hour talking to me and just passing on their advice and their thoughts and their experiences, I don't know how it works, and I don't know if my writing got better, but it felt like my writing got better just from being around all these people. Certainly my excitement grew and things just started happening. So I think just that getting out there and going to book launches and going to talks and going to just wherever there's people involved in books, Kidlit Vic, things like that, going to those sort of things. I've just found, even the Yabba Awards, I went to the Yabba Awards before I'd been nominated, and they're like, come along, it's awesome fun. And there's just kids so excited about books and screaming and yelling, and they treat the authors like rock stars, and suddenly you feel legit. And so, all that sort of stuff. I think just being around it made a massive difference. And then you meet people, and so James Hart, who illustrates a lot of mine, I met randomly at a Christmas festival market in Frankston, and we've done now about 20-something books together, which has been amazing. But meeting these people, it just gives you opportunities, and you discuss ideas and potential collaborations, and not all of them happen, and some never will, but just that process, just getting amongst it just excites you. I could, like, even after today, we'll talk about all this book stuff for an hour, whatever. As soon as it finishes, I'll be writing, because I just get so buzzed just talking about this stuff. And so I haven't done a lot of collaboration, no collaborations with other authors really in terms of making books together, but collaborating in terms of energy and discussions and excitement around books has led to so much happening for me. It's been amazing.
Yeah, so really putting yourself out there and getting in amongst it. And even though on the inside you might be feeling like, am I one of them? Like you kind of put it aside and then just pretend. Is it like fake it till you make it?
Kind of, yes. But also what I discovered, and this is very specific, probably Australia, but certainly in Victoria and Australia, the kids book community it's the most amazing community I've ever been a part of. Like, it's so accepting and supportive, and they couldn't care less if I need self-publish. In fact, they were excited and curious about the self-publishing. And so someone I know you've had on your podcast, Michael Wagner, like we just started chatting about it, and then he started self-publishing, but he was so curious and asking questions about it and how it happened and how it worked. And he was then excited to do his own books that hadn't been picked up by publishers that he really wanted to do. And so it's more this curiosity and everyone helping each other, and everyone's excited for each other. Like if someone does well, there's no jealousy, there's no competition. Like everyone is just genuinely excited for everyone else. And that makes it so much easier, because suddenly you're accepted into this crowd and you might feel like you don't belong, but they're just like, no, come in here, tell us what you do. Like they just get so excited. So yeah, that makes it a lot easier. I'm sure it's pretty similar around the world as well, that the kids book community is going to be accepting like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you feel that they're judgmental of your writing ability? That could just be a me question, right? Because I'm probably at that stage.
No, look, they definitely are. Yeah, no, they're not at all. No, and I think part of it.
I believed you just then. Don't do that.
You never believe me. No. Look, I don't think so. I think one of the great things about kids book, especially kids books, even as well as kids book, is that I think part of it is like, a lot of kids authors realize that if kids are excited about reading, they're going to read more books. And if they're going to read more books, they're going to read more books. And then they're going to read more books. Then they're going to tell their friends. And so there's so many different types of writing in the kids book industry. And so many have done well. Like there's certain types that, win the CBCA awards. Children's Book Council of Australia Awards. Yeah, that's the one. And there's others like the Yabbas, and they're totally different. So Andy Griffiths, who writes these particular type of books, has won like 30 different Kids' Choice Awards and never won a CBCA award. But people on each side can see the value of the other books as well and what they bring. And some books are great for discussions in classrooms. Other books are great just for a laugh, and other books. So I think because there's so many different types, there's not that judgment, because we realize that also we don't know. We don't know. We think we know what's going to work and what's not. But as I say, I had 200 rejections with books that I thought were amazing, and even ones that got accepted that I thought were great and going to do well didn't, and other ones that. So my first one that made it on the New York Times, like obviously I put everything into it and really enjoyed writing it, but it didn't take that long. It was a bit of fun. It was the publisher's idea, so it was a flat fee one, and I wrote it. It was really cool. My niece did some research on leprechauns for me, sent it off, thought nothing else of it, moved on to something else. And that was the one that did the best. And I don't think the publisher or me or the illustrator had any idea what was going to happen. Because if we knew, there's a line by William Goldman, who wrote The Princess Bride and many, many other things. And he says, the first thing you need to know about Hollywood is that no one knows what they're doing. Because if they did, every movie would be a blockbuster. But it's not. And so there's obviously little things you can do that are going to help, but things take off for their own reason.
Yeah, things take off for their own reason, and you don't really know that. We don't really know that reason.
No, that's right. And so I think one of the main things I've learned, and I was talking to James Hart about this the other day, is that if it depends on the and so we were talking just off air before about Gary Vee, and I love Gary Vee, and one of the things he talks about is why we've got to change the metric of success. And why isn't it just being happy rather than money or this or that? And all that stuff's important. And I want to make lots of money because that means that my books are doing really well and selling to lots and lots and lots and lots of kids. But if we're writing a book and our goal for that book is to be a #1 New York Times bestseller and it doesn't reach it, we might feel like we failed. If our goal is to just write the best book we can, have heaps of fun doing it, put something amazing into the world, we can do that every time. And so we're always going to be succeeding. And then the success is the other stuff's going to come because of that. If you put so the advice Andy Griffith gave me at the start, one of the first times I met him, was just make your work as good as you can and the rest will take care of itself. Like work on the craft, enjoy what you're doing, and just want to put great stuff out there for kids.
Yeah, well, there's this great quote on your website. As soon as people arrive on your website, go check out the website, people.
I might have to as well.
Yes, you will too. Because you haven't looked at it in a while, I get you. It will be in the show notes. My mission is to entertain and inspire millions of children around the world and to eat hot chips. But mostly the inspire children thing. Now, I feel like that paragraph really summarizes you. right? Because it's like you want to entertain, inspire millions. So you've got a really big global aim of, getting your books into as many hands as possible.
Yep.
But then you also want to eat hot chips. So there's your humor coming through, right? And I feel that comes through in all of your books. And like many of your books are kind of, if I'm allowed to say, maybe I'll get in trouble, silly boy books. Am I allowed to say
totally.
silly boy books?
Yeah.
Is that like bad thing to say?
Who knows? I say it all the time.
I have a notoriously bad reputation for like offending my interviewees. So tick, done that box. But, that whole sort of way of writing must be so kind of fun and freeing. Are girls allowed to do that? Are we allowed to write silly boy books?
Absolutely. And in fact, I think that the more the better. If girls are doing it, they're going to bring their own perspective to it as well. And one of the things I love is, so one series I have, this may be a boy book, I don't know, is Fart Boy. And so Fart Boy series has been so much fun. And one of the great things about it is working with Scholastic, and my editors are female there. And so even though we're writing this, boysy book, they'll often be like, yeah, you could do that, but how about we go even further? And they'll take things further than even James and I would have gone. But then what they'll also do is they'll be like, but we need to know a motive for the villain. We need to know I think sometimes, and probably especially boys, can get carried away with, when I say boys, I mean writers, not readers. We can get carried away with the humor and with the excitement and with the this and with the that. But without something sort of underlying that, then I think it only sort of scratches the surface, and it's something that kids might read once or twice, maybe, if that. And it's not necessarily going to lead into the longer series, whereas if it has that bit of underlying thing, and I remember the guys who did The Naked Gun talking about this and saying, we can just do these jokes all the time, but without a decent story underneath it, without a bit of emotion underneath it, it's not going to stick. It's going to be a bit of, oh yeah, that was cool. Yeah, and that's it. So I think what's really nice about working with the editors at Scholastic, and I don't even know if this is a male-female thing, but there's we want to get a bit more emotion into it. We want to get a bit more depth to it, and that's where the magic's going to happen. And so, but yeah, I think definitely I've got a few friends who are female who have a really boysy sense of humor, if we're going to call it that, and yeah, I'm like, yeah, write that. Like, you are awesome at that, and they don't do it, and so it's really interesting that. Whether we feel pigeonholed into certain types of writing, I don't know, but yeah, I think anything's open for anyone to write. Like, absolutely. I want to write romance novels.
Well, you write picture books all the way through to novels, so you kind of nothing's off for you. You'll just have a go at everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm writing screenplays at the moment as well. Well, I've taken a little bit of a break, but yeah, at the end of last year, started this year, I wrote heaps of screenplays. I put them aside. I'm going to go back to them soon. Yeah, I think so. I think the more you write, the better your writing becomes. And I found even writing a horror screenplay helped with the kids' chapter book I was writing. Because it was so different, something about that and getting that out and writing that horror, yeah, it allowed me to come to this and just be freer writing the kids' book. So, and I think the more, and there's something to learn from everything. So Bruce Lee's a bit of a hero of mine. And, his martial arts was made up from looking at all the different martial arts, as well as boxing and fencing and all these amazing other things, and looking what he could take from all of those. So yeah, I'm a massive proponent of looking at watching different movies that you may not necessarily watch, and just seeing how they're structured and how you can use that, and reading different books and reading philosophy books and seeing what character, because some of the characters in philosophy are incredible, and you can then use them in your writing for kids. So yeah, I'm prepared to read anything, watch anything, and write anything, pretty much.
So you've got a really teachable kind of attitude where you love learning, you love taking in a whole variety of stuff, and then it's almost like you trust yourself to spit out something new and original from everything.
Absolutely. And I did improv. I've done a few improv comedy courses, and they were massive in helping with that, because I wasn't always necessarily like that. Like when I started, it was just rhyming picture books, and that was it for about the first year and a half, I reckon, or 2 years or more. And so, yeah, doing improv where they just have this philosophy again of fail spectacularly. Just do it, because, and especially when we're writing, we've got the bonus of we're not acting. We're not in front of an audience. We're writing something. We can try whatever we want. And if it doesn't work, no one knows. Like, it doesn't matter. We can just put it aside, or we can change it and work on it. And so if we try something that doesn't work, we get caught up in that. But like literally no one knows except us. It doesn't matter. So we're freer than a lot of other people to just try whatever we want and just see where it takes us and see where it goes.
So when you go in to do a school visit, dun, 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 the word school visits. If anybody who's been listening to this podcast from the beginning knows that they still terrify me. I've had several conversations with you over the years about how they terrify me, and I still haven't moved on from that. So I don't know. I need like serious counselling or coaching or something. But tell me something about how an absolute virgin person can start doing school visits and not be terrified of those children.
Well, I can't, because you will be terrified. You will be terrified because it is scary. Like, scary going in front of these kids who, again, not that kids aren't judgmental necessarily, but they are very honest. And if they don't, like, I remember when I was in before and after care reading stories to kids, and I once had like 4 or 5 kids in front of me. I'm reading this story, and a couple of them just got up and walked off halfway through the story. Like, if they're not liking it, you'll know all about it. And so, yeah, look, it is terrifying, but for me, and because I remember my first visit, I was swallowing and my voice was cracking, and I basically broke out in a full body cold sweat. But now after doing, I don't even know how many, like it's nearly, I think it's over 500 schools and libraries and things like that now. So it's thousands and thousands of sessions. It's not even, I don't even think about it. Like, to me, standing in front of 500, 1,000 kids is almost easier than standing in front of 2 adults and doing something. So yeah, I don't know. It's the more you do it, I guess, and starting small. Like, we don't have to start with those 500 kids. Just starting with a friend or your own kid's classroom with like maybe 15 or 20 kids, and just letting them know and being open and honest and authentic about it, and just saying, all right, kids, this is my first visit. Like, I'm really nervous, but I'd really like you to know what you think about what we're going to do, and just be honest with them. And kids are amazing like that as well. Kids are, as well as being honest if they don't like it, they're honest if they do, but they're also really open and accepting to just giving you a go and just seeing how it goes. And also, and then knowing that you're going to do I've done some terrible school visits, like just ones where I'm sitting talking just while the words are coming out, in my brain I'm going, oh my God, this is the most boring thing I've ever heard in my life. Your voice is just droning on, and other words are coming out of my mouth. So you do bad ones, but as you go along, the more you do, and you take little bits from each one, and again, seeing other authors. Like, I went and watched a lot of other authors do presentations. So when I was in Rockhampton, it was great because I get to see people like Lee Hobbs, who's been doing it for 20 years or whatever, giving his presentations to kids and adults. Amazing. Michael Salmon got me to his house to just discuss visits and books and all this sort of stuff. So and he's been doing it since 1972. So yeah, watching these people present and watch what they do, and watching Andy Griffiths be super interactive with the kids from the word go, I'm like, oh, that's what I got. That's it. Like, the kids are suddenly so involved and excited. Whereas when I was just talking to them for 40 minutes, they were falling asleep. And so seeing what they do that you like, seeing what they do that you don't like, and just plucking things from all of that, and then just trying it in your own way. And again, Bruce Lee, he talks about, he says, you're watching, you're learning something, you absorb what's useful, discard what's useless, absorb what's useful, and then make it uniquely your own. And so I think doing that, which means you have to get out there and do it, is kind of the only way to do it. Because as much as you practice at home, a school visit, there's nothing that compares to actually being in front of the kids, but then in a good way as well, because their energy, like, if they get into it, then you get into it, then they get into it, and like by the end of it, you're just buzzing. Like, it's amazing.
So let me guess, you're an extrovert?
Well, I actually think I'm probably an ambivert, because Because I do. I definitely get my energy from being around people and their energy. And I like to do at least one social thing every day if I can, except for this week because I've been hiding away in my house, crying because I've got a little cough. But then I also have times where I'm like, I just need some space. Like I love having my house where I can just come to and just be on my own and write and watch a movie. I want like having that space of my own and reading is really important. So yeah, definitely a bit of both, I think. And definitely it's changed over time. Like when I was younger, massive introvert. Like I couldn't talk to anyone.
Really?
I would burst into tears if someone spoke to me when I was out. Like I was so shy. It was almost crippling.
I cannot imagine you like that at all.
True.
But you can be an extrovert and then be shy, can't you? Like you can actually,
so.
yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And I also I think I made a decision at some stage just to try and be better at that part. And when I say better, I just mean because it was making me feel bad. Not being able to talk to people and not being, able to enjoy it like I was seeing other people enjoy different things and getting sulky because I was angry at myself more than anything else and being at these things and just going into my own self. And so it was a bit of a decision, and I've read 65 million personal development books and I've walked on fire with Tony Robbins and I've done all that sort of stuff and all that has kind of helped. But yeah, certainly it wasn't an immediate process at all.
Wow, well, it's really paid off, your dedication to all of that. And what I keep hearing from you, and I know I should stick it on a bloody sticky note right on the front of my computer, like just take action. Do the thing, even if you fail miserably, just do the thing.
I think that's right. And again, I think it's also looking at what failure is and sort of going, maybe we send something out and it gets rejected and we say we failed, but we send it out. Like that's a success that we even did that and we had the courage to do that. And once it's out, there's nothing we can do about it. Like all we can do, as I said before, like, put your best into creating it, make it the best you can, have fun with it, enjoy it, because I believe that energy comes through in the writing as well. But if someone else happens to not like it, there's nothing you can do about it. It's like shooting an arrow at a target. Once you've shot it, it's gone. Sometimes it hits the target, sometimes the wind blows it away, sometimes the target falls over. Like these things happen that are so far out of our control that we see as failure, and I do as well. But sometimes redefining that as well, I think, can make a massive difference to actually taking action because, again, going and doing a school visit, just going to it is a success. And then as you do it and you experience more of them and they get better, you can then redefine for yourself what success is as well. So, I mean, I used to do it when I'd go out and I'd sell books to the kids. How many books I sold would be how I defined it as a good visit. And so if I sold, 100 books, I'm like, that was awesome. What a great visit. If I sold 5, I'm like, oh, that was terrible. It's not at all. Sometimes you're doing a visit where kids don't have that much money. Sometimes there's a book fair on. Sometimes they've just been on school camp. And so all these other factors, and also, again, going in and going, I'm going to give these kids the best visit I can possibly give. And I go in saying, I want this to be the best incursion they'll ever have at school in their lives. And again, maybe that's aiming high, but it means that I go in there with energy of just giving them everything that I've got. And the book sales are a bonus, and sometimes they'll come and sometimes they won't. And there's things you can do to help that as well. But in terms of the visit, I could do the best visit I've ever done. It could be the best visit they've ever had. And I could sell one book just because of all these other factors. So yeah, working out what success and failure is, I think, is a really big part of being able to take action a lot easier.
Really valid point. That's amazing. Yeah, just reframe how you see your success or your failure to it. So you have a course on how to do school visits, which I have purchased. I'm halfway through. I think because if I finish it, I'm going to have to actually do a school visit, Adam.
I think you might have to.
I think I'm going to really have to. There's no excuses after that. What sort of do you do activities with them? Do you, read a bit of your book? Like what sort of things, because you've done so many of them these days, do kids really enjoy the most?
It's a great question because, again, I think everyone's going to be a little bit different on this as well. And I know there's quite a few people who do a talk and they'll have PowerPoints and talk about their journey. I know some illustrators who show the process of the roughs to the next, to the this, to the final book. And so you get different people do all these different things. I find for me, it's a bit of a mix. I love to get the kids doing stuff. So if it's an hour, I've sort of divided up. So the first probably 20, 25 minutes is me talking to them about techniques I use in writing books and certain books, and reading bits of those books. And again, bit business focused, that if I'm there and I've got order forms for the kids, I'll talk about the books that are on the order form, and they're the ones that I'll focus on. But I might talk about, okay, in this story, I used like a lot of exaggeration. And I'll read a bit, show how I use exaggeration, and then we'll get interactive, like, because after, again, seeing Andy Griffiths do that, I'm like, I need to get him talking, want to get him involved. Set up a scene, we'll sort of, do all that and sort of create stories together verbally. I'll sometimes do writing, but I find if I do it verbally, then I can do it from prep to grade 6. Whereas if it's actually writing, it's maybe grade 2, but probably grade 3 to grade 6 that you can do with the kids. And so, yeah, I'll do that, and we'll do that interactive. And what I find is, if the kids start saying funny stuff and making themselves and each other laugh, I suddenly become funnier. Even if I'm saying the same stuff that I've said in other sessions, suddenly they're laughing more at my stuff just because they're in that mode. They're in that mode of laughing at the things they've said, so they laugh more at what I say. So it's really interesting, again, that sort of energy. And then the second half, so I like to split into writing and drawing. The second half is based on drawing. So we just do some little drawing warm-up exercises and little activities. And then I have some books that teach kids how to draw pictures, cartoons. So we'll do a picture out of that as well. So yeah, even when I'm talking, it's really interactive, but a bit of a mix of talk and workshop and creating and just mucking around and being stupid as well.
Yeah, well, I love that you said that. You're allowed to muck around and be stupid.
Yeah.
Do the
Kids
teachers
love
not
it.
sort of frown at you?
Sometimes they're they'll more often frown at the kids. So especially with the preps, where you mention like a dog, and then it's like, I've got a dog, my dog died, my dog's name, and the teachers just go, oh my God, can someone say something about writing? And I'm just going, this is the best thing ever. So yeah, now look, they're pretty good. You sometimes get a few frowns, especially some of my stuff's a little bit gross humour, and so not every school and every teacher's going to like that, but that's fine. There's stuff that I read in here that I don't like as well. So again, it's that really interesting thing of, I used to worry about that. I used to worry about the teachers, being a bit offended or not liking it or being bored, but also I remember, and I think I talked about this in the course, where every now and then you get the kid who just looks bored out of his brain. Like, even if 30 kids are killing themselves laughing, there's always one kid and sometimes they'll decide, they actually see them decide when they get in, I'm not laughing at this guy. And then there'll be times where like everyone's laughing and one kid will go, that's not that funny. And so I used to make it my mission. Like, I would be there and I'd be like, my mission is to get that kid and make him love the session and love me by the end of the session by giving him everything. And what I realized is, if I'm doing that to him or the teachers or catering to someone else, they're getting all the focus. These 30 kids who are loving it are getting nothing from me. And so what I do now is I just ignore them. I barely look at the teachers when I'm doing it. Sometimes I will, but often I'm just focused on the group of kids. And if there's one who's not liking it, if he comes along, he's going to come along. If he doesn't, he doesn't. There's nothing I can do about that. I focus on the ones who are enjoying it, build up that energy, and then eventually the other kids often come along anyway and get into it.
Whoa, that is massively good advice. Massively good, because you're right. So many people would be like, why is that kid not liking this? I'm going to get this kid to like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did it for years and years and years and years. Because you want every kid to enjoy it so much. You can't.
Yeah. And even now, like, people I'll meet out and about will be like, oh, we'll get your books for our kids. And I'll say, well, it depends what they like to read. They may not enjoy like what I've written. It doesn't, but find things that they love to read. If it's my book's great. If it's not, buy them something else. Just get 100%. Them reading, right? Because there's a lot of stuff out there.
A lot. Yep.
Couple more questions. Right. Couple more questions about school visits. Order forms. Yep. So how do you deal with that whole thing? Do you take them with you on the day? Do you send them to the school in advance? Is it like, are you allowed to? Do they sort of frown on the fact that you're trying to make money off these kids? How does it work?
So it's an interesting one because I'm about to change things a little bit with my order forms. So yeah, no, you're right. There's different ways you can do it. Some people do pre-orders. So they'll maybe email the form to the school. The school will print it out or put it in a newsletter. on the day you rock up, the forms are there. Sometimes you sign the books on the day and then give them to the kids there, which is great. I found that hasn't worked massively for me overall. I've had a couple of schools where it's been good, but generally I don't. And I think part of that is not being as well known around. So if it was someone, well, here's the name I always go to because everyone knows him, but say it was Andy Griffiths, did pre-sales, he would get thousands because he's so well known. Whereas in a lot of schools, especially because I self-published for a long time, and the books that I've had go well are generally in America. So a lot of schools, kids don't even know who I am. And the parents don't know who I am, more to the point, because even if the kids know, if the parents don't, they're not necessarily going to hand over $20 to the kid to be able to buy this thing. So what I tend to do is, and also on the day, so some people also do sales on the day, so the kids bring money if they want to book your sign at recess and lunchtime, but I just find that I need the breaks. Like I pretty much believe like the last session of my day at a school deserves the same energy as the first session, and the first session deserves, I don't pace myself at all, the first session deserves 100%. So my lunchtime and recess is my break time. I need that downtime. Just what I found work best is leaving order forms on the day. A, because the kids have then seen you. There's a bit of buzz around that. With me, they've drawn a picture, so they take the picture home and show the parents what they've drawn. And then on the order form are the books which teach the kids how to draw, so it fits in with that. The teachers are talking about me. The teachers can talk to the parents about what I did. Then I'll go back, varies between 2-3 days, a week later, collect the forms, take them home, sign them sort of in my own time, and then deliver within a day or two after that. So it adds a little bit of extra time, but I found the extra sales were massively worth it. I was talking to someone about it the other day. Funnily enough, a guy in America whose name is Adam Wallace. We connected, and he's writing a book, and we're sort of working together on that a bit, which is a business book, which is really interesting as well. So, but yeah, we're talking. I was saying to him, like, since COVID and all the lockdowns and all that sort of stuff, because I keep engineering background, I have spreadsheets on everything, including like every year of school visits, the number of schools, the number of kids, the number of orders, the dollars per order, like basically everything is documented. And I noticed that the number of kids ordering from before the pandemic to this year has dropped by 50%. So so for me, my really good years were getting between 18 to 20 or 17 to 20% of kids ordering, which sort of doesn't feel like much. But if I go to a 500 kid school, that's 100 kids ordering. And if they're buying these 3 for $30 packages I mentioned, like something that's $3,000 potentially that could come out of that. So it's dropped down. This year they've been on about 8%. And I'm like, what? But I'm not, I feel like the sessions are going really well. Like I feel like the kids are really responding well. They're not happening. And what I've discovered, and it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, is that because I do cash or check. So I'm still pretty old school with that, just because it's easier. Again, I think parents are going to want to write their credit card number on my order form to some guy they don't even know. Bank transfers I did one time, but that people would pay in money but wouldn't write who it was from, so it just got really awkward. And so I was talking to, and I went to one school to collect the orders one time, and a parent had just gone to the office, and she's like, "Oh, it's going to be in the order for me. Oh, it's cash. Oh, how annoying." And so I'm like, "That's it." So I was talking to Adam, and he's like, "Why don't you have the order form? People can pay in cash, but then have a little QR code, because everyone's so used to that. Set up a web page just for that school. They scan the QR code, order it through there. It's PayPal or whatever, Stripe, Square, whatever. I do PayPal. Totally secure, so they feel safe doing it. Everyone's used to QR codes now. So I'm going to add that. And QR codes, for people who don't know, they're totally free. I use InDesign. So just through InDesign, you right click and it says generate QR code, and you just add in a website. And then you just stick it where you want it. Like, it's as easy as that. And then you do the same thing. You scan with your phone, go to the website, and they can order through there. So that's what I'm going to add. But that's the sort of little tweak. So still I found that, the order forms, leaving them on the day. And I say to the school and the teacher, look, it's zero work for you to do aside from collecting the orders, chuck them in a bag or chuck them in a box, whatever. Don't go through them. I'll sort change. I'll sort everything else. I deliver them in great order with the kids' names on the bag, so they're all in order, so they're easy to deliver. Because schools do have a lot, and I know some authors I've spoken to say that some schools aren't necessarily happy about trying to sell the books to them. And I think partly because I think it's going to be so much work. So I really stressed that at the start. Nothing for you to do. And I used to give, for every order, I used to give $2 off the booking fee to try and get them to sort of promote that a bit and for them to see it's valuable. And a lot of times they would buy, with the discount off the booking fee, they'd say, we'll pay you the full booking fee, just give us some books. And so now what I do is for every order that comes in, they get $2 worth of my books. It's like recommended retail price type thing. And so, I get 100 orders, they get $200 worth of books for the library or prizes, whatever they want. So, yeah, so they're the main little things with order forms that I do. But yeah, and again, it's different for different people, but I find for me that leaving on the day, collecting them, when it takes a bit more organisation, but in the end, I remember one school I went to where I did pre-orders, arrived on the day, there was about 5 orders, and then I left order forms on the day, came back a week later and got another 50. And so that's what I find the difference is for me. Like it's almost every time I've tried it, it's been at least 10 times better leaving them afterwards.
That's such like amazing little tips, but really important, because these are the little things that we sometimes don't talk about that can make all the difference.
I think so. And a lot of people don't sell the books. And again, it's harder if you're through a publisher, depending on the discount you get and depending how many books you can get, because, if it's $7.50 a book and I want to buy 200 of them, something that's $1,500, and that for authors just starting out, that's a fair bit to put out to get those books. So it depends a little bit on where you are, I think, as well. But certainly, even if you're putting out $1,500, if you sell all those at full price, you're getting $3,000 coming in. So it is worth it. It's just you've got to get that money out there to start with.
Yeah, and so one of your biggest sellers for when you do school visits is a series that you self-published, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in fact that series, again, one of those things that changed everything, where it is a series where I teach kids how to draw cartoons, and started from aftercare. I had a session with the kids, and we used to have an activity indoors, an activity outdoors, or they could do homework, but they had to do something. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I found this little cartoon on the internet, copied it myself, learnt how to draw it, went in and taught the kids. And as we were drawing it, we started telling a bit of a story, and they just loved it. And they just stayed there drawing for the whole 3 hours. And I'm like, there's something to this. So I made these little books, self-published them. Oh, I've actually got them here, but yeah, so they were basically...
Grab.
Okay, hang on.
For our audio listeners, this is a little pause moment. Have a glass of water. Just refresh yourself as we wait for Adam to come back. For the people who are visually looking, and you can find visual at YouTube. Here he comes.
So, I got this little one here, which is how to draw a skateboard gorilla. And you can see it, I don't know, people listening to this, it's about 4 centimeters by 7 centimeters, something like that. And so it's one character to learn how to draw. And so I teach the kids that step by step, has a little rhyming story through there. And then I've now, because of printing, because I ended up doing about 14 of those, and they would all run out at different times. And so it was cheaper to print 4 at once. So it just became too awkward. So now I've got like a collection of 10 in one book. So I've got 6 of these. But yeah, doing these little how to draws, it got me more school visits because I could not only write, I could draw now as well. So a lot of schools, unfortunately, don't have art rooms or art teachers, or a classroom teacher has been chucked into the art room and they're like, we've got to do cartooning, I don't know what to do. So it really helped getting more school visits. The kids loved it because kids love drawing, and they started to see they could achieve drawing even if they thought they weren't very good at drawing. So yeah, it kind of changed everything. And yeah, in terms of the sales, I think all up I've sold nearly 100,000 of those or something like that, basically through schools and markets. So just going out to there. So yeah, it's been very unexpected.
That's mind-blowing. You're somebody who taught yourself how to draw that thing and then made it so accessible, so fun for a child at that level that you're probably outselling, amazing illustrators who aren't out there doing that stuff. You know
100%. I'm so offended right now.
Do you know what I mean? It's crazy to me, because that just comes back to your A, confidence, and B, knowing your audience. You know that you've got this kid who, like you said, I want to draw that gorilla, right? So it's genius. Yep. That's what I'm trying to say. You're a genius.
But also you're absolutely right. I'm I still find it hard to call myself an illustrator. I'll say cartoonist. I'll go that far. But yeah, look, but it's true. And I think one of the benefits of knowing I wasn't a world-class illustrator or anything like that was that I could just do it and know that they weren't the best thing, which sort of freed me up a little bit for them. Like this gorilla, I've now drawn him again. Probably hard to see that, but he's a bit lopsided and he's a bit out in his eye. I look at it now and go, oh, he's a bit funny. But the kids look at it and they go, oh, I can draw that. And they can. And then the good drawers can take it further as well. And yeah, I think also it's that idea of what's good again and what's going to work again and what's like that idea of perfection where we won't put anything out until it is world class, or we'll work on it and work on it and work on it and work on it. Kids half the time couldn't care less if it's perfect or not. Like they just want something they can enjoy, and when it's done not fast, but when you don't overwork it. I think when it's overworked, I don't know, I think sometimes kids can almost sense that subconsciously. Whereas when it's a bit rawer and it's put out there, it's the I think it was Apple. Someone did a thing was ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire. Like, and again, so with the gorilla, there was a line in that, and the picture's changed a bit now, but there was a line that I thought was hilarious, and so I've done it and did all my visits and everything. This line, I reckon, for a year of having this book as a little one, didn't get a laugh one time, and I'm like, oh. But I just changed it when I did the new version and stuff like that. So I think and again, it's about that. It's the improv thing of just trying things and also realizing that there's no such thing as perfect. I think, like, again, what we think is great isn't necessarily going to work, and what we think is terrible might. But also that I think just getting it out and trying stuff, and some stuff's going to work and some stuff's not, and that's actually okay. We're going to survive that.
Yeah, but like it's so much that I almost feel sometimes the things that, come out from the publishing house, they're so polished that the kids look at it and go, oh, I could never do that. I mean, like a regular, like I look and think I could never do that. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got a team of people that are making that happen. So, like your book kind of organically made with your experience hanging out with kids is much closer to where they're actually at today. So it's still way above them, but they're kind of feeling like, okay, I could do that, which is, it's brilliant. That's all I got to say. It's just actually
thank
brilliant.
Thank you. And it's almost unintentionally as good as it is, if that makes sense. Like when I first did it, I had no idea this is what was going to springboard kind of everything. And also it's that sort of thing where me drawing at my level, I'll still go to schools and kids will be like, whoa, you're Absolutely. The best drawer in the world. And and again, that's where you realize that we have this perception of this person is the greatest drawer in the world. Kids are going, you're the greatest drawer. I draw stick figures with kids now, and kids are like, that's awesome. And they draw these amazing things with stick figures, which again is kind of to show them, like, you don't have to be in it. Like, if you can draw amazingly, that's great, and do that. But even if you can't, if you can make something really simple, do really cool things, or have a really cool character, that's enough. And even if you look at things like Terry Denton and Lee Hobbs, and these guys are these amazing artists, and their drawings are quite scratchy and sketchy, and they're a lot better than we might think they are by looking at them, and they're a lot more technical than we might think they are. But kids look at it and go, oh, I could do that. Or Wimpy Kid, basically stick figures, amazing, and just perfect for what. And it's seeing what the kids like and respond to. And I think that's part of just trying different things and putting it out there, because otherwise you don't know. And that's one of the best things about doing school visits is seeing what they like, whether it's the things you're talking about or the books you read them, and going, oh, they really responded well to that. Okay, that's something I can use again. So what I do now in schools is basically made up. Sometimes it seems like I'm improvising it to the kids, but it's basically something I've done 100 times before because they've responded to it so well. Yeah, so I think it's just that process of just trying things, and again, as we've said, just putting it out there and giving it a go, and realizing that if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it does, it does, and that's that.
Yeah, but like your artwork, or like Terry's, as you were saying, it looks deceptively simple. It's sort of like, oh, that's a bit. It's like not though. Like it's because it deceptively looks simple. The kids are like, I could do that.
Yes, they can relate to
it.
it.
Still
Yes.
hard. It's still a process of learning how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, like in terms of getting, and I'm looking at the clock because we have exactly 1 hour before it chucks us off the platform.
Okay.
And I want to squeeze every last minute out of you, so I got 9 minutes left.
I'm going to speak so succinctly from now on.
I'll press the fast forward button. How do you apply to do school visits? Like, do teachers welcome a variety of different authors? Do they sort of go, what have you published, or what are you offering, or we have 50 other authors that do that? Like, how do you break in?
I tried pretty much everything. And so I remember I did an email out one time. And again, this was before I was really known at all. But I emailed out to like 100 schools. And I got one response. And they said, we'll think about it for next year. I'm like, well, that didn't work so well. I drove round to schools. And again, I was lucky that I'd stopped engineering at the time, so I had the time to be able to do it. But I would drive round to 4 or 5 schools each day. I'd mark them in my little Melways. That's how long ago it was. And then and I'd go out, and it's interesting because I'd go out at the start and say, are you interested in school visits? But got hardly any. Then if I went out saying, here's some of my books, I'd love, see if you want to buy them for the library. And I worked out, and I would leave them there and go back a couple of days later if the librarian wasn't there, or even if they were. And I ended up getting sales to about maybe I think it was like 40-something%. Again, got a spreadsheet. But also a lot of those librarians would then say, oh, do you do school visits? And so I ended up getting school visits out of that as well. So that was good, but very time consuming. Markets are great. Like I go out to craft markets and weekend markets and sell my books. So I was making money from selling the books, but so many teachers and librarians go to markets. It is incredible. And again, I would take little flyers out, but they would always say, oh, do you do school visits? And they'd often initiate it, which is great. And then one thing I found was really good was doing a mail out. So I would again have a spreadsheet of all the schools, and I ended up just writing them all out, had all the different areas they were in, and I would pick an area like Brighton and choose like 10 schools all around there, and I would mail out a copy of one of my books, a little letter introducing myself, a flyer about my school visits, and something else in there as well. No, maybe that's it. And again, it would cost me maybe $6 to do that because it was about $3 postage for one book, and then the other stuff to print out was like $1 a sheet or something. So it cost me $6. So even if I did 100 of them, and I tried to do sort of 40 a term, so I'd do probably 150 a year. So that's going to cost me about $900. If I got one visit out of that, so what I charge at the moment for a one-day visit is $600 plus GST. So if I get one visit, I've basically made that back, especially if I do sales. And so it was definitely worth it. And again, wasn't a massive response, but I think I ended up getting, I was between sort of 5 and 10% of schools would take a visit from it. Sometimes I had one email me one time and go, oh, I got your package 3 years ago, and I just couldn't at the time, but we're really interested in a visit. So sometimes it would come back later and say, yes, that was really good. That was probably the main way I settled on. And then eventually, the more you do, teachers talk to other teachers, and teachers have networking events, and librarians often meet and have a little librarian network meeting and things like that. So once you do a few, word gets around. So now a lot of it is schools approaching me, which is really nice. I still do markets every now and then and do that. And I've got a booking agent or two through CreativeNet and Lamont Books. So through all of them, it all comes. I still probably get, I reckon it's probably about 60 or 70% myself getting the visits, and then the other two sort of make up the rest of it as well. So yeah, but it was sort of that legwork to start with. But certainly the mail out was really good, and going out to the schools and markets, just introducing myself. I find that in this world, especially where everything's online, everything's, I don't know, just social media and this and that face-to-face, which is why I love school visits and markets, because you meet the kids face-to-face. And also, if you're on Facebook and a kid's author, kids aren't allowed to be on Facebook. So you can't connect with them at all, really. And so I find that being face-to-face with the kids, but also with the parents, so then and with the teachers, that just takes that relationship to a next level. And even publishers, like when I've met publishers, I've never had a cold submission accepted by a publisher. It's only ever been if I've met the publisher through someone or at an event or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So relationships.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
amazing. All right, last question.
Okay, yes, before we do
finish
that.
your thing.
Yes. Very quick though, because the other thing I did at the start was just everyone's either got family or friends who are teachers. Like both my parents were teachers, and so many friends are teachers. Use them. Just say, can I do a practice? Can I just do a free visit with your class? Just get it. And then often the school will go, okay, that was great. We'll get you back for a visit. And so using your friend. No, totally use your friends and family. Use them. And so, yeah, that's a great way to get into schools as well, just through contacts.
Yes, of course. And look, the worst thing that can happen is they say no.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, but you're right. People will more than likely say yes, especially if they know you and they know you're dynamic and genuine and all those great things and fun.
Absolutely.
Last question.
Okay.
Like, you're so busy doing all this stuff. Like, how do you balance it all and still make time for writing?
Again, I'm pretty lucky in that I do it full time. So I don't have another job that I'm doing. I do a little bit of engineering data entry every now and again just to help out the old place I used to work with. But I think really the real interesting thing about all of that is it is busy and it feels like a lot. But even if I did 50 schools a year, which is about what I do now, even if I did 50 schools and every one of them I did orders, which I don't, but let's say I did 50 schools, it's 50 days at the school potentially, plus going back another day to go back and get the order, another day. So let's say it's 150 days. And even the delivery and the picking up's only a couple of hours. So that's not a full day. That's 150 days out of the entire year. So I've still got another 215 days to write and do marketing and do all that other stuff as well. So yeah, I think the good thing is that even when it's really busy, and 50 is plenty for me. Like I know that a lot of authors, not a lot, there's some authors I know who do like 100 visits a year and I'm like, nah, not interested in that. It's too tiring. But yeah, so often it's just like making the time as well. And I know when I was engineering, I would just write on the train in the way into work. And there's an hour's writing a day, and sometimes that's enough. Like if you can do even 500 words a day, which doesn't take a lot of time. A, that could be a picture book, which are about 500 words. Or B, if you're writing a novel, 500 words a day, if you do that every day of the year, you've got about 180,000 words, which is potentially a really long novel or 3 YA novels. And so just doing that little bit each day can make a massive difference we don't have to write for 8 hours a day. It's impossible. If you can do 1 or 2 hours, and you do it every day, you're going to have a massive amount of writing done over a year.
Great answer. Well, thank you so much for being on my tiny little baby podcast. I have loved having you on. And all the links to Adam will be in the show notes, to his website, to his courses, whatever he's got to offer. His social media stuff will all be there. Thank you again so much, Adam. I've learned so much.
Thanks so much for having me. Always great to hang out.
Did you find that interview valuable? Great! Now be an awesome human and go and leave a review because it helps the podcast out so much. Want to read the show notes? Check out the children'sbookauthorpodcast.com. Want to find out more about me, Eleanor Page? Find me at eleanorpage.com or come and say hello on social at Eleanor Page Books. Until next time, keep writing and keep learning.